There comes a moment in every woman's life when the touch no longer satisfies, when the mirror reflects a body she no longer wishes to offer for validation, not from heartbreak, not from rejection, but from a knowing, a quiet, persistent knowing that says, she doesn't announce it. She simply begins to disappear. From conversations that drain, from nights that never nourish. At 30, the world still expects her to remain soft, sexual, available, as if her worth is measured by her desirability. But something inside her whispers, so she pulls back, not as punishment. They'll say she's cold, but she's burning. They'll say she's lonely, because this is not abstinence as avoidance. It's abstinence as initiation. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." And now, this video is not about denying the body. It's about remembering the soul, not about celibacy as repression, but as transmutation. By the end of this journey, you will understand why silence is not emptiness. And perhaps, if you've ever felt the need to step back, to feel whole without being held, this video is for you. Leave a comment below if you felt this calling. Subscribe if you're ready to walk through it. And now let's begin. Number 1, the withdrawal, when desire loses its meaning. It doesn't begin with a grand decision. It begins with discomfort, with a kiss that feels hollow, a touch that no longer ignites, a night that leaves her more alone than before. She starts canceling plans, not because she's tired, but because the mirror of another's gaze no longer reflects her home. At 35, Mia thought desire would still thrill her, that the game of attraction would still feel electric. But something shifted. She found herself smiling less, replying slower, undressing not out of longing, but out of obligation. And when she tried to force herself to feel, to want, to seduce, something inside her recoiled. That's when she realized it wasn't about him. It was about her soul going quiet. Carl Jung wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And for the first time, Mia saw how much of her desire had been performance, an echo of what she thought she should feel, a mimicry of romance fed by stories, songs, and survival. So she stopped. No more casual sex. No more half-hearted kisses. No more surrendering her body to prove she was lovable. Her friends didn't understand. You just need to get out more. But what she needed was to go inward. She wasn't rejecting pleasure. She was reclaiming it, not to be consumed, but to be chosen by herself first. This wasn't loneliness. It was reverence. She was no longer hungry for attention. She was hungry for truth, for intimacy that began within. And the more she withdrew, the more the world accused her of shutting down. But deep inside, a light was starting to flicker, because when desire loses its meaning, something ancient starts to remember its name. Number 2, the shadow emerges, meeting the woman she repressed. Silence as a rhythm, and the longer she sat in hers, the louder something began to stir. It wasn't peace. It was restlessness, like a locked door shaking on its hinges. At first, Mia thought she was regressing. Loneliness visited her in unfamiliar forms. Not sadness, but flashbacks. Not heartbreak, but rage. She remembered moments she had swallowed, when she wanted to scream, but smiled. When she wanted to say no, but said yes. When she wanted to leave, but stayed just to be loved. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This was that moment. The woman Mia had repressed all these years. She was knocking. The fierce one, the angry one, the sensual one, the honest one, not the nice girl, not the compliant lover, but the wild truth beneath the persona. This wasn't some spiritual high. It was messy. It was loud. She'd wake at 3 a.m. shaking from dreams, where she was screaming truths no one wanted to hear. She'd cry in the grocery aisle, not from sadness, but from a sudden memory of how many times she betrayed her own instincts just to be good. The shadow is not evil. It is everything we buried to be accepted, and now it was rising. Mia didn't reject it this time. She sat with it. "Listen, what do you want from me?" she whispered. And from the dark, the answer came. "I want you to stop shrinking." This wasn't depression. It was confrontation, not with the world, but with her own conditioned silence. As her abstinence deepened, so did the confrontation. And in that raw space, a deeper truth began to flicker. She wasn't broken. She had just never met the whole of herself. Number 3, the refusal to perform. She doesn't want to be desired. She wants to be real. There comes a moment when a woman stops rehearsing. She's tired of smiling when she doesn't feel safe, tired of wearing red lipstick just to be noticed, tired of lowering her voice to sound softer. When the truth inside her wants to roar, she doesn't want to be wanted. She wants to be witnessed. Abstinence for Mia stopped being about sex. It became about masks. And how many of them she had worn just to feel loved. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And now, that privilege felt terrifying, because to become real, she had to let die every performance that once got her praise. No more asking, "Do you still think I'm beautiful?" She now asks, "Can you hold me when I'm not performing beauty?" No more leaning forward on dates, laughing on cue. No more adjusting her desires to seem easygoing. She stopped being digestible. She told a man recently, "I'm not interested in being interesting." And the silence that followed, liberating. Because once she stopped performing, she saw it. How many men wanted her as a projection, not as a person? How many lovers loved her illusion, not her inner wilderness? She no longer needed to be sexy to feel worthy. She needed to be sovereign. She wasn't looking for someone to awaken her anymore. She had already awakened. Now the game had changed. Love wasn't something to earn. It was something that had to meet her as she is. Unedited, unapologetic, unafraid. She doesn't care if they call her too deep, too emotional, too much, because she's no longer performing. She's remembering. Number 4, the return to the body, sensuality without seduction. At first, abstinence felt like emptiness, but slowly it became presence. There were mornings Mia would lie in bed, her hand resting on her stomach, not with hunger, but with reverence. The same body that once danced for desire, now pulsed quietly in stillness. And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel watched. She felt witnessed by herself. Carl Jung wrote, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." And her body had dreams, yes, but they weren't fantasies of being touched. They were memories of times she abandoned herself for someone else's attention, of nights she moaned louder just to feel heard, of moments she gave pleasure to feel needed. Now, she touches her skin like a prayer, not a performance. She doesn't light candles for romance. She lights them for reflection. She doesn't wear lingerie for seduction. She wears silk at home because her own softness deserves to be felt. This is what sensuality becomes when no one else is watching. A private ritual, a return, a reckoning. She no longer gets ready for someone else. She adorns herself for the mirror, for the moonlight, for the woman she sees, naked in truth, clothed in sovereignty. There's no performance in this. There's presence. She doesn't crave to be devoured. She craves to be still long enough for her body to speak the language it forgot before it was trained to seduce. And in that stillness, something ancient stirs, a pulse not of lust, but of life. And that is what makes her radiant now. Not the curves, not the scent, not the way she moves, but the fact that she is no longer a body waiting to be chosen. She is a soul that has already chosen herself. Number 5, the sacred mirror, love that doesn't ask her to disappear. It took her years to realize this. She had never been afraid of love. She had been afraid of losing herself inside it, because every time she loved, she vanished just a little. She shrank to fit. She smiled to smooth over. She softened even when something in her wanted to scream. So she stopped loving, or so it seemed. But the truth? She was building a version of herself, so complete, so intact, that love would no longer feel like a disappearance. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." And now she's ready, but only for a love that transforms, not consumes. When he arrives, she doesn't perform. She doesn't flirt to earn space. She doesn't dim her magic to make him feel more powerful. She sits across from him with eyes unafraid, not because she's trying to impress, but because she's no longer trying to disappear. She no longer fears being too much. She fears being somewhere she can't be whole. This time, she watches not how he touches her, but how he holds her presence. Does he rush to fix her silence? Or does he sit inside it? Does he mistake her strength for coldness? Or does he recognize it as grace? Because she is not asking to be adored. She is asking to be understood. And if he cannot see the temples she has built inside herself, he is not meant to enter them. She doesn't test him. She reveals herself slowly, not out of caution, but out of sacredness. Because this time, if she lets someone in, it won't be because she's lonely. It'll be because her soul whispered, "Yes." He sees you and does not flinch. She doesn't wait at windows anymore, doesn't scan the room for someone to recognize her light, because now she walks as her own sunrise. There was a time when her silence felt like exile, when the absence of affection felt like the absence of worth. But she now knows what she once called loneliness was simply the soul's demand for truth. Carl Jung once said, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." She has awakened, not in some grand, loud moment, but slowly, in the space between texts not sent, in the peace of choosing solitude over performance, in the stillness of no longer chasing echoes of herself in other people's arms. She has stopped trying to prove she is lovable. She now lives as if love was never in question, and in doing so, she becomes the kind of woman the world can't quite explain, not because she hides, but because she shines without permission. She doesn't speak to be heard. She speaks when there's truth. She doesn't need love to feel complete. She invites love that knows how to meet her, fully, presently, without fear. She is no longer the girl who broke herself to be kept. She is the woman who was reborn through her own absence. And when she finally loves again, it will not be from hunger. It will be from clarity, not to be completed, but to be accompanied. So to every woman watching this, if you're in the silence, stay. If you feel the ache, don't run. If you withdrawn, trust it. You're not fading. You're becoming. And when the world asks you why you walked away, look them in the eyes and whisper, "Because I finally heard myself and she was worth everything."